Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, it feels like you're stuck in place? Like every time you get a little ahead, life just finds a new way to pull you back down? By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why you're struggling to save money, and more importantly, what to do about it. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Your income isn't the problem. It's the invisible psychological traps that come with each income level that keep you from saving money and ever building real wealth. And once you understand what's really happening between $40,000 and $100,000, everything changes. I'm Chris, and I've spent years studying personal finance and thinking about the reasons why a few people effortlessly save and everyone else finds saving money impossible. If this video teaches you something new, consider hitting the like button. It really helps others find this video. Right now, millions of people are grinding through their days, making what sounds like decent money on paper, but living paycheck to paycheck anyway. They're stressed, confused, and honestly starting to wonder if saving is even possible anymore. And here's what makes it worse. They're being told they just need to budget better, spend less on coffee, cut back on subscriptions. But that's not the real issue. The real issue is that every income bracket comes with its own set of psychological landmines and lifestyle expectations that sabotage your ability to save. And nobody's talking about it. Let's start with $40,000 a year. If you're making around $40,000, you're bringing home maybe $32,000 after taxes, which is about $2,600 a month. And here's the brutal reality. At this level, you're not playing a savings game. You're playing survival mode. Rent or mortgage in most cities eats up at least $1,000 to $1,500. Car payment, insurance, gas, food, utilities, phone. You do the math, and there's maybe $200 to $400 left over on a good month, if you're lucky. But here's what nobody tells you about the $40,000 bracket. It's not just that the money's tight, it's that your entire psychology around money is shaped by scarcity. You're making decisions from a place of fear, not strategy. Every unexpected expense, a flat tire, a medical bill, even just needing new work shoes, feels like a crisis. Because it is. You don't have margin for error. So what happens? You start borrowing from your future self. Credit cards become the emergency fund. Buy now, pay later becomes the bridge between paychecks. And slowly, quietly, debt starts to build. The psychological trap at $40,000 isn't laziness or bad choices. It's that you're forced to think short-term. You can't think about investing or building wealth when you're worried about making it to Friday. Your brain is in constant low-level panic mode, which means you're making decisions to relieve immediate stress, not to build a future. That morning coffee or fast food lunch isn't financial ignorance. It's a tiny dopamine hit that makes the grind bearable. It's self-medication for a life that feels relentless. And here's the cruel part. Society tells you that you should be able to save at $40,000. Financial experts throw around advice like pay yourself first and invest 10% of your income. And if you can't do it, you feel like a failure. But $4,000 a year when you're already stretched thin? That's not happening. Not without serious sacrifice that most people can't sustain long-term. So what changes at this level? Not much in terms of lifestyle upgrades. What changes is awareness. You start to see how the system is designed to keep you running in place. You see that every company wants recurring revenue from you, subscriptions that auto-renew, payments that never end. You start to realize that the only way out is to get ruthlessly intentional about every single dollar. Track everything. Cut everything that doesn't directly contribute to survival or sanity, and look for any possible way to increase income. Because at $40,000, you can't save your way to wealth. You have to earn your way up. Now let's jump to $65,000 a year. You'd think this would feel like freedom, right? You're making $25,000 more than the $40,000 bracket. That's life-changing money. Except it's not. Because here's what actually happens. Your taxes go up, and lifestyle inflation creeps in like fog. You're bringing home maybe $51,000 after taxes, which is about $4,200 a month. That's $1,600 more than the $40,000 bracket. So you should be able to save way more, right? Wrong. Because at $65,000, you're not living in survival mode anymore, you're living in comfort mode. And comfort mode is where wealth goes to die. Here's how it plays out. You finally feel like you can breathe, so you upgrade the apartment. You get the nicer car because you, quote, deserve it after years of driving that beater. You start going out more, buying better groceries, subscribing to more services. You're not being reckless. You're just living like someone who makes $65,000 is supposed to live. The problem is that supposed to live is a trap designed by marketing and social comparison. At $65,000, you're surrounded by people who make similar money, and there's this unspoken pressure to keep up. Better clothes for work, nicer dinners, maybe a weekend trip here and there. None of it feels excessive. It all feels reasonable. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Here's the psychological shift that happens at 65,000. You stop feeling poor, but you don't feel rich either. You're stuck in this weird middle zone where you think you should be doing better than you are. You look at your bank account and wonder where all the money went. You're making good money. You should have something to show for it. But you don't. Because every extra dollar that could have gone to savings got absorbed by a slightly better version of your life. And here's the kicker. Debt often gets worse at this level, not better. Why? Because you qualify for more credit. Bigger car loans, higher credit limits, store cards, personal loans. The system sees you as a reliable payer, so it offers you more ways to borrow. And because you're not in crisis mode anymore, you start thinking about debt differently. It's not scary anymore. It's just a tool, a way to smooth out your lifestyle. And before you know it, you're carrying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in debt, making payments that feel manageable but never really shrinking the balance. The advantage at 65,000 is that you finally have enough margin to make a choice. You can choose to live like you make 45,000 and bank the rest. You can choose to attack debt aggressively. You can choose to start investing. But here's the hard truth. Most people don't make that choice. They drift into a lifestyle that matches their income, and they stay stuck. Not broke, but not building wealth either. Just comfortable enough to stay in place. What changes at this level if you get it right? Everything. If you can resist lifestyle inflation, if you can keep living below your means, 65,000 is where you can actually start building. You can save $10,000 to $15,000 a year. You can kill debt. You can start investing. You can build an emergency fund that actually covers emergencies. This is where the game shifts from survival to strategy, but only if you're intentional. Only if you recognize that the comfort is a test, not a reward. Now, let's talk about $100,000. 6 figures. The number that's supposed to mean you've made it. You're bringing home maybe $75,000 after taxes, which is about $6,200 a month. That's double what someone at 40,000 is taking home. So life should be easy now, right? You should be saving effortlessly, investing, and building real wealth. Except that's not what happens for most people. Because at 100,000, something weird happens psychologically. You start comparing yourself to a completely different group of people. You're not looking at the person making 40 or 65 anymore. You're looking at the person making 150,000, 200,000, 500,000. And suddenly, 100,000 doesn't feel like success. It feels like the new starting line. Here's the trap at 100,000. You finally have enough money to afford the things you've always wanted. Nice house in a good neighborhood, 2 decent cars, private school for the kids maybe, better vacations, nicer everything. And because you can afford it, technically, you think you should have it. You've worked hard. You've earned it. So you buy the lifestyle that matches the income. And once again, there's nothing left over. But there's something darker happening at this level too. There's a identity shift. You start seeing yourself as successful, which means you start making decisions based on what successful people do. Successful people don't drive old cars. Successful people don't live in small houses. Successful people don't pack lunches or shop at discount stores. So you don't either. And your expenses explode, not because you're being careless, but because you're living up to an image of who you think you should be. The psychological weight at 100,000 is different than the other levels. It's not fear, it's pressure. Pressure to maintain the image, to keep up with peers, to prove that you belong in this income bracket. And that pressure is expensive. It costs you in ways you don't even realize until you step back and look at your financial life honestly. Here's what most people miss. $100,000 doesn't make you rich. It makes you comfortable enough to spend like you're rich without actually being rich. Real wealth isn't about income. It's about assets, investments, things that grow without you trading time for money. But at 100,000, you're still trading time for money. You're just getting paid more per hour. And if you spend every dollar you make, you're no better off than someone making half as much. Actually, you might be worse off because now you're stuck. You can't take a pay cut. You can't downsize. You can't make a career change. Your lifestyle requires $100,000 just to maintain, which means you've built a prison out of nice things. The advantage at 100,000, if you can see it, is that you finally have enough income to build real wealth fast. If you keep your expenses at the 65,000 level, you've got $25,000 to $35,000 a year to invest. That's enough to build a 6-figure portfolio in just a few years. That's enough to pay off your house early. That's enough to retire a decade before everyone else. But only if you reject the lifestyle that comes with the income. Only if you recognize that the goal isn't to look successful, it's to be free. Here's what all 3 levels have in common. The reason you can't save has nothing to do with not making enough money. It has everything to do with the psychological game you're playing at each level. At 40,000, you're playing defense, trying not to fall behind. At 65,000, you're playing comfort, trying to feel like your hard work is paying off. At 100,000, you're playing status, trying to prove you've made it. And all 3 games will drain every dollar you earn if you let them. But here's the good news. Once you see the game, you can stop playing it. Once you understand that every income level comes with invisible expectations and traps, you can make different choices. You can decide that your life at 40,000 doesn't have to look like everyone else's at 40,000. You can decide that making 65,000 doesn't mean you have to spend 65,000. You can decide that hitting 100,000 doesn't mean upgrading everything in your life. So how do you actually start saving, regardless of where you're at? First, you've got to name the enemy. The enemy isn't your income. It's lifestyle inflation, social comparison, and short-term thinking. Those are the things that steal your future. Once you name them, you can fight them. Start by tracking every single dollar for 1 month, not to judge yourself, just to see where it's actually going. Most people are shocked. They're spending way more on random stuff than they realize. Food delivery, subscriptions they forgot about, little purchases that add up to hundreds of dollars a month. Second, you've got to create space between your income and your expenses. Pick a number that's lower than what you make and commit to living on that. If you make 65,000, live on 50,000. If you make 100,000, live on 75,000. The gap between what you make and what you spend is your freedom fund. That's where wealth comes from. Not from making more, but from keeping more. Third, you've got to kill debt like it's trying to kill you. Because it is. Debt is a claim on your future income. Every dollar you owe is a dollar you've already spent. And as long as you're in debt, you're not free. You're renting your life from creditors. Start with the smallest balance or the highest interest rate. Doesn't matter which, just start. Fourth, you've got to start building assets, even if it's tiny amounts. Open a high-yield savings account and set up an automatic transfer of $50 a month. That's it. Just $50. You won't miss it. But 12 months later, you'll have $600 that didn't exist before. Then you bump it to 75, then 100, then 200. The amount doesn't matter at first. What matters is the habit. What matters is that you're becoming someone who builds wealth instead of someone who spends everything they make. And here's the psychological shift that changes everything. You've got to stop seeing money as something to spend and start seeing it as something to keep. Every dollar is a little soldier working for you. The more soldiers you keep, the more they multiply. The more they multiply, the more options you have. Options are freedom. Freedom is the whole point. Let me tell you what life looks like when you get this right. First, open your banking app and look at where your money actually went last month. Just look. Don't judge, just observe. Next, pick one expense you can cut or reduce this month. Just one. Maybe it's a subscription you don't use. Maybe it's eating out one less time a week. Maybe it's switching to a cheaper phone plan. Find one thing and cut it. Lastly, take that money you just freed up and move it somewhere you can't easily spend it. If this video helped you see your income and your spending differently, do me a favor and drop a comment below telling me where you're at on your journey. Are you grinding at 40,000 trying to get ahead? Are you at 65 fighting lifestyle inflation? Are you at 100,000 realizing you've been spending everything? Or are you somewhere else entirely, just trying to figure this whole thing out? If you like this video, you'll really like my next video, where I talk about how quickly you can save $10,000, depending on how much your salary is.